Hey guys, Shane here. Before we get started today, I want to ask you a quick favor. Please hit that subscribe button and give this podcast episode a share on social media so that we can help more families start, build, and grow a membership of their own. We appreciate that so much. Thank you for listening today. And now on to the podcast.
Hey, y'all, we got a super fun episode of the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast for you today. We are celebrating the success of one of our amazing community members, Kathy Martin. On today's show, you'll learn how Kathy grew her membership from 15 members to nearly 300 members, how she talked her spouse into getting on board with her online business dream, and Shane's 3 prolific strategies for growing a membership site to 500 members and beyond. This is an awesome chat with one of our favorite people in the world. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast, where life always comes before work. We're your hosts, Shane and Jocelyn Sands. We're a real family that figured out how to make our entire living online. And now we help other families do the same. Are you ready to flip your life? All right, let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Flipped Lifestyle Podcast. It is great to be back with you again this week. Super excited because I love our guest. I absolutely love this person. She's an absolutely amazing member of the Flip Your Life community. We've got to hang out in person. We share a deep, passionate love for the art of professional wrestling. Our guest is Kathy Martin. Kathy, how you doing?
Woohoo! I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here.
It is good to see you. I am really pumped because we were just talking, we were lamenting before we got on air here about how we have not been able to go to live wrestling shows in weeks and or months now. And we're wondering if we're ever going to get to do that again. It's so funny. Kathy is in one of our videos over on our Flip Lifestyle channel. She's got a Seth Rollins She's rocking the wrestling paraphernalia in inside the thing. So we're here to celebrate an amazing win from Kathy. So I'm going to let Kathy tell you. Kathy, what are we celebrating today on the Flip Lifestyle Podcast?
I have flipped my life and I'm officially quitting my teaching job.
That is what I'm talking about. We've got somebody moving to freedom, living that flipped lifestyle. So I want everybody, wherever you are, you're probably at home because you're not allowed to go anywhere still, but give Kathy a standing ovation in your kitchen or in your car or wherever you're at, because this is a really, really big deal. You are becoming self-employed, and that is absolutely awesome. So we're gonna reveal the whole story about how Kathy got here. So maybe you can learn some tips about how to quit your job. But Kathy, before we do that, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what your background is, and what your online membership is all about.
So my name is Kathy Martin, and I live in Los Angeles, California, and I have been a special ed math teacher for 13 years, and I have a membership where I sell middle school math resources to middle school math teachers, and I have been an online entrepreneur for the last 4 years, I think, technically, and now we're here. It's amazing.
That's awesome. And Kathy's journey has not been without peril. It has been ups and downs. I feel like I've been riding shotgun with you the whole time, because you've been in the community for a long time, and there were a lot of places. You were actually on the podcast back in, it was January of 2018, right? And you had all of, you had just launched, you had a few members, but you had even been building like before that. And it was a real struggle, to get members and to do things like that. So tell everybody, how long did it take you to settle in with what you were doing, to get members? This was not an overnight success. Kathy didn't launch her membership in January and she's quitting her job now, y'all. So when did you first start online business, and what did that look like your first maybe year inside the community?
You are absolutely right. I am not someone that was like, I built this thing and then now I have 10,000 members and I make $4 million. So if you're in the same spot, I feel you. So I technically started the summer of 2016, and I actually just spent the first, from that summer to the end of 2016, just really kind of building. I wasn't really selling. I wasn't doing anything. And then 2017 was when I started to try anything and everything. And it felt like nothing worked. And then finally, some really nice person believed in me and spent $10 at my membership. And then I knew, I was like, okay, if you are willing to pay me $10 for all these things, I can do it. So
somebody else has to be it. There's got to be more than one of you out there,
yes. Right? And it was a hot mess. Like my membership was a hot mess in the beginning. Like nothing was pretty. Not that things being pretty matters, but it matters a little bit. And it was, so ugly. And I didn't know who I was talking to. Like it just took me a really long time to figure out like what I wanted to write about, what I wanted to say, who I was really, instead of talking to like this general ether, it took me a while to kind of figure out, okay, this is what my people need, and this is what resonates with them. And it's just it's slowly grown from there. But I think, I know that if I would have opened up in 2018 or 2017 and I had 100 members, 100 members would have quit because
right.
I mean, honestly, because I didn't know what I was doing and I would not have done a good job, so.
Yeah. Beta. That's why we always take people through the beta path. Like, listen, open it for 20. They're all going to quit, but you know what? You're going to learn, and then open it for 20 more. And then you know what? Maybe half of them quit. And then eventually when you get that third group in, you're like, oh yeah, they all stayed this time for a month. We're onto something here. Let's keep like hammering this nail. And like, I've literally watched your journey like through the beginning. And I've always wanted to ask you this question in particular. Okay. The funny thing is because I've never asked you this because I didn't want to like bring it up until you were successful. So,
oh God.
Yeah. So let me tell you how much like I actually know Kathy. Okay. So like Kathy has been to our live events. We've hung out in person, all these things. Kathy actually, we were so proud of her and where her journey was at last year at Flip Your Life Live. We actually made Kathy our member of the year, right? Because the member of the year in the Flip Your Life community is not the person who makes the $1 million. It's the person who won't quit. And I'll tell you what, I have never seen anybody that won't quit like Kathy Martin. It was absolutely incredible. So, but while you were coming up through the community and you were building your business, there were other people in your space that were succeeding. Right. And I know a lot of the other educators in the space and talk to them and things like that. And I've thought in the past, like I would see someone in the educator space, their niche, like succeed, even the math people, right? Like there's a few math people in there and they would blow up. And I've always wondered what you thought when you were watching this. Like you would see like Jeanette or somebody else, like you say, man, my stuff's as good as theirs, or I'm getting better, or why is their stuff working? And why is mine not? Like, how did you react to that when you saw other people maybe succeeding in a similar niche and you were like, dang, man, I got one person giving me $10. Where's all my people? Like, did you ever think about that, or did it inspire you, or like, how did you react to that?
Well, first off, Jeanette Stein is the queen.
Yes, she is. She really is. Like,
she is the queen. And honestly, she had a post in the community when I first joined, and I'll never forget it because I saved it as a tab on my phone, and it was her. She called it Road to 300. And I had that, like I said, tabbed on my phone, and I just kept track of every time she posted, like, I got whatever member now, this is what I'm doing. And I just followed her journey because I knew that she was the reason why I started.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to your podcast, and I never told you this, and I knew that I'm like, I like them because they're teachers and I'm a teacher. And then you shared one day your can't miss moment was going to the Royal Rumble. And I was like, well, I'm forever connected to these people. I was like, he's a wrestling fan? What? So am I. And so
I got 3 belts on the shelf behind me if you're watching on YouTube. So yes.
Well, I have all of my WWE like pop figures in the back too.
Right.
So, and then I heard Jeanette's interview and I'm like, okay, what if she's a math teacher? I'm a math teacher. And I knew that if she was doing it, then I could do it. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter to me like that she was succeeding or that I wasn't. It was just like
there is a road.
There is a road, right? Yeah. And I knew that there was a place for me somewhere. Because Jeanette and I are totally different personalities. We do different things in the math world. So I knew that there was space. I
Yeah.
just needed to figure it out.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. I always wonder that. And but at times I kind of like, that's what should happen. And it's why we don't sell a course. And I think it's why we sell a community, right? We don't call it the Flip Your Life course. We call it the Flip Your Life community, because if you come in and you see that someone else can do it, like there's no way that any one person can reach every single person in a niche, right? Like some people just aren't going to like Jeanette's stuff, or they're not going to like your stuff, or they're not going to like another guy's Jeff Twitty. They're just not going to like his stuff, right? But seeing other people succeed, being able to kind of ask, like, what did you do there? Like, why did that work? Or think about it. Like, and just Jeanette, she was just using that like a journal. Hey, here's what I did today. Plop.
Yep.
Here's what I did today. It worked. And that just seeing other people going through that process is pretty amazing, because like it tells you, man, I can do this. I may be one step behind, but I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to go. And it's why we emphasize being in the community so much in every email we send and every training that we send out, because even if you don't know the person, right? Sometimes just seeing that other people are like, can you imagine trying to build what you've built, right? And you're on your road to 300. You're almost to 300 members now yourself, right? Like how many members do you have right now?
I'm at 250 now.
It's amazing. Like you're going to hit 300 very soon.
By the end of summer.
Yep, exactly.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. When you get to the back, you're going to crush it. So like, just, can you imagine though, not having that example, not having someone like, what if you were just in a course and there was never a post that said road to 300? Like where would you be right now without surrounding yourself with these other people? Right. And but the point I'm trying to make is, I worry people get scared of competition. But it's not about competition. There's plenty of room for everybody. It's about getting into a community where you have examples and then collaborating with the right people to help you succeed faster. Because you've talked to Jeanette before and hang out with her, right?
Oh yeah. I don't want to use the word stalker, but
Right.
But I made an effort to really be in her world. Because like I love her to death. She and I have developed a friendship now. I have had the privilege of being coached by her, and in the live events, like the first live Flip Your Life live event, I made sure I'm like, I need to be around Jeanette. And the power of the live event was I got to be around her. And then in the second live event, it was like, hey, when are we hanging out? When are we going to go to dinner?
Yeah.
Instead of this, like, I need to make an appointment. Like, it was just like a given.
Yeah. We had a little Voxer group going there a while. It was just all educators. Like I was kind of popping in there too and just talking about something. Was that at the beginning of the coronavirus that I started that? I don't remember. But we were talking about just things that are working. And it's very interesting how I learn so much. I learn as much from the community as everybody else does. Like I learn every day. Like I'm talking to a guy next week who's got a goat farm and he wants to teach people how to raise goats. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be amazing. This is so off the chain. Like I've talked to people that raise sheep and chickens, but even that was different than this guy. He's like goats and goat milk and soap and it's crazy. I can't wait to talk to him. But like I learned so much from even you guys, like in our education space, like, hey, what's working in the math world? How can I apply that to the history world? Laura Kiebert, I'm like, hey, what's working over there? We got all these educators and all these people. And when you really surround yourself with a group of people enough to be able to say, hey, y'all, I need some help, right? Man, it just takes all the pressure off. Like you just can't do this alone. And I feel sorry for anybody that buys a course or some random masterclass 3 videos and says, hey, you'll have an online business. No, you won't, because you're doing this all by yourself. And the person who recorded that course will not talk to you, right? And you need
absolutely. I would not be here without the Flip Your Life community, because in that group or in the community, I was able to connect with Jeanette. Laura Kiebart, shouts to her, because she's like not only one of my best business friends, she's become one of my best friends.
Yeah.
We talk every day.
Yeah. Brilliant woman. Laura, if you're listening, shout out, because you're awesome.
Yeah, seriously. Shouts to her. And, and like people like Jennifer Bradley and, other people in the education space that I've been able to connect with, talk with, like we're all doing this. That's like, that that really holds us together.
Yeah, sometimes we're doing it bad and sometimes we're doing it good, but we're doing it.
But
like we're all doing it.
Nobody else understands, you know.
I know, right?
It's like,
well, that it warms my heart to hear that of the connections that you've made in our community and the fact that you're making it like that. It, almost in the back of my mind, Kathy, I think you've always been like a personal, like mental project of ours. Like we've always just thought about you like, oh, I hope Kathy gets a member today. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like ever since we talked to you on that last episode where you had 15 members, it was like, because you could always, I always love people that want it badly. And you've always wanted it badly and you've never quit. And I got to tell the story about you sacrificing the country music concert. I got to tell the story. So we're going to talk business today, guys, but you know, we're jamming as friends today. So like Kathy, when we had Flip Your Life Live in 2019, and of course there's no Flip Your Life Live this year because no events are happening because of coronavirus. But like Kathy, I was talking to you. I don't remember where we were talking, but I was trying to convince you to come, I guess. And you were like, you better be glad that I've sacrificed to come. I remember when you bought your ticket because you were like, you sent me a message and you were like, I want you to know that my favorite country music band, who was it? Can't remember.
Old Dominion.
Old Dominion. I want you to know that there's a concert the same day, and I was going to go to that concert, and they're my favorites, but I'm choosing you guys. I'm choosing the Flip Your Life community. I'm choosing Flip Your Life Live. I didn't go to this concert, and
I literally had 2 windows open. Like,
no, you did not. Are you serious?
Old Dominion concert page and the Flip Your Life Life page. And I'm like, okay, close out Old Dominion.
Oh my gosh. I can feel the pain. You know, I'm glad it wasn't WrestleMania because I would have had no chance. But like, and then I remember when that came through and you sent me that message, I looked over at Jocelyn and I said, can you believe that? That's amazing. Like, I mean, she's coming from California to Lexington or whatever, you know, like Kentucky. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And Jocelyn was like, she said, she looked at me and she said, I wonder if Old Dominion's going to be near them at any other time. And I'm like, I don't know. And she goes, I'm going to look. And she did. She found out they were going to be like within driving distance of you. And it was awesome because I remember when we were doing the Member of the Year speech, I had this so planned because I wanted you to kind of figure it out, but not enough to know. And like, I remember you were sitting, I can vividly remember this. You were sitting over to the right of me, like left of stage, and you were, and you had your feet up in your chair and you were just sitting there listening, and we had brought a couple other people on. And I was kind of trying not to look at you, but I had people in the audience. Jeanette was recording you. Like I had other people recording you because I wanted to watch this later. And we brought you up on stage for the Member of the Year thing. And then we gave you the tickets to that concert. And I have watched the video of that moment 1,000 times since then because you were just shocked. One, that you were even up on the stage, but 2, that you were going to see Old Dominion anyway. Yeah. So that's one of my highlights of my last 5 years of life. I just want to let you know that.
That's amazing. Was
the concert awesome, by the way? Was it amazing?
It was amazing. Well, I mean, to get there, it's where the like stagecoaches and it's where all these like music festivals are. And normally it would take like 2 hours to get there, but it was pouring down rain. It took 5 hours to get there. I'm like, I don't care. We're going and we're gonna have fun. Like,
that's amazing.
It really was
that's
amazing.
Your personality right there. I don't care. We're going.
I don't care. We're going.
Like if everyone listening to this podcast would just say, I don't care, I'm going. Join the community, start a business. Like that would just be the way that everyone should live, and everything would be awesome. You know. But unfortunately,
it's worked so far.
Worked so far. Just keep, yeah. Hey, listen, when in doubt, run through the glass pane and hope there's something on the other side that'll stop the bleeding. That's what I say. That's my philosophy anyway. All right. So let's talk about your business. All right. Let's talk about your business because if we don't, we'll chat all day. So you have done an amazing job. You've built a little community. You've grown this to 250 people paying you every single month. And you've got this awesome thing of resources that you know actually works now. Right? You know people want it, you know people will use it, and you know that it gets people like good results, okay? So as you leave, you just left your job, as you leave your job, which is scary in its own right, but you know good things are coming. It's predictable. You've been doing this a few years now. You know that we're going to have a back to school time, even though it's going to look a little different. You know that things are going to happen. What's the next step in growing your membership? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who maybe have a membership and they've got a few members and they're getting ready to try to grow to that next level. So where are you struggling right now? Like, what's the next big question that you've got to help you grow this thing even farther?
Well, I would love some help on what you think, like when you grew from, like 5 figures to 6 figures to 7 figures, like all of those big jumps.
Yeah.
What's like the strategy shift and like the mindset shift that you had to make? Because I think strategy is great and strategies are everywhere, but I think not enough people talk about
tactics.
Your
Like
mindset,
the thing. Yeah.
Like what your brain has to do and how to like navigate away from those like negative thoughts that pop in all the time. And even just exacerbated now with the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So it's kind of like a two-parter. Like, so what's the shift that you had to make strategy-wise that took you to each of those next steps? And then what was the mindset shift that you had to make to take you to those next steps?
Yeah. So I'll break that down into 2 parts too. We'll talk about practical examples for you, right? And then we'll talk about the big mindset shift first. So one thing that Jocelyn and I have always been able to do is do things really fast to see what happens, right? So I think that's more like in the beginning, that's like the first mindset shift. Like you actually said this a few minutes ago. You were like, hey, that's when I started trying everything, right? When you start throwing mud on the wall, that's the difference. Like everybody starts out with a want to and an idea and, I wonder if I could do that, right? But you don't know if something's going to work until you try it. And you won't know the one thing that works until you try 10 things. So I think that consistently trying things is where people find their first success, right? Like you just started trying things consistently enough to where you figured out the few that worked and then it stacked. Okay. But then you get to this level where you're like, okay, this is where I am now. I know there's something up there. I can see that person doing it. How did I get there? And I started really looking at like how did the people who were where I wanted to be, right? How did they get to where they were? Like how did Pat Flynn get to where he is? How did Russell Brunson get to where he is? Like how did these people do it? And the one mindset shift I figured out was that they were prolific. And like you hear me say that word all the time. I'm wearing a t-shirt in this interview right now, if you're watching this on YouTube, that says the word prolific with a period at the end of it. All right. And that was the biggest mindset shift that I had that really took us to the $1 million level, to the next level. Because, back in like late 2000, maybe 2015, something like that, I was wondering and thinking of ways to grow. And I started looking at what we were doing. We were sending an email to our list every week, a newsletter. We were doing a podcast. We were doing the right things. We were sharing stuff on social. We were connecting with people and going on interviews. Okay. And I just realized, man, it's not enough. It's not enough. I had to find a way to be more prolific. And when I analyzed that mindset shift and that word, what it meant to me was daily, right? Like, am I really showing up every day? Am I really, really strategically showing up in a prolific way every day? Not throwing the mud on the wall. That got me to here, but that won't get me there. Am I prolifically thinking about what I'm doing strategically every day? Do I have a month-long plan? Do I have a plan for my promotions this month? Do I have a plan of what podcast I want to be on, not just hope that somebody's going to reach out and ask me to be on the show? Do I know what content I'm going to make, right? So I decided back in 2015 that I was going to be more prolific than anyone else, okay, at certain things. You can't be prolific at everything, right? That's when I started daily emailing. That's when I started like, no, I'm going to email my list every day. And if they unsubscribe, goodbye. But if they don't, they'll buy from me. And I said, I'm going to be prolific. I'm going to do that. And then I said, I'm going to be prolific in my relationships. I'm going to choose the masterminds I want to be in, and I'm going to work my way in or buy my way in. I don't care. I'm going to be prolific with these relationships. And then we did some other things too. Like we kept our consistency with our podcast. We tried a lot of things there, but that's the biggest mindset shift. If you want to be, if you want to reach six figures, which, guys, I hate to tell you this, that's not a huge number for a goal. That's 200 people paying you $50 a month or 400 people paying you $25 a month. If you get 400 people to pay you $25 a month, that should work out to over $100,000 in a year. So you can get there. Like, this is not a monumental mountain moving task, right? But you are going to have to choose the ways you're going to be prolific to get there. Okay. So that would be the first thing I would say to anybody in your position. Like, I'm at 250. I'm going to get to 300. I'm going to make it to 500 faster than I got to 250. Right. You got to pick the ways you're going to be prolific and then have a plan to execute your prolificness. Like if I get up every morning and the first thing I write down on my calendar to this day is the hour that I'm going to spend crafting an email for my list. Right. That's what I'm prolific. I've averaged 1.8 emails a day since 2015. I send an email an average of 1.8 because you got weekends and holidays and stuff that kind of kill your batting average. But I'm prolific. I've done that since 2015. It's 2020 right now, right? So you have to say, what's working the best right now for my list? What's happening the most? Look, what gets me the best results? I'm going to become more prolific there than anybody else. Okay. Now, from a tactical level, what are some things you're doing right now that are working? And maybe we can figure out and identify these places, because what's going to work for Flipped Lifestyle won't work for the education space, right? So what is working right now on a consistent level that you've identified as successful? And let's figure out if we can springboard that into a prolific strategy that you can, something you're going to do every day to grow your business, basically.
I just hired my first Facebook ads strategist.
Okay.
So that's exciting. So she's helping me run ads to a evergreen webinar that I've done like so many times live. It's converted really well. So that's why I've decided to make that evergreen.
Awesome. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of running in the background. The months of June, July, August, I'm doing a 5-day live challenge. So my 5-day challenge is happening, 2 weeks from now because it's July. So I just did it in June, and then I'll be doing it again in July and August. And then,
is this a challenge you've done in the past that's worked?
Yeah, so I did it. Well, last summer was the first summer I did it, and I did it again, June, July, August. And so I'm doing it again this summer because it worked really well. And then back to school sales. Back to school time this year is just going to be a little bit different. So it's not something, I feel like I do really well with, quarterly planning. Like what's my yearly goal? And then how do I get there each quarter, right? And then I plan for the quarter and then breaks down every month.
Sure.
Like quarter 1 or quarter 2 this year, all the goals and all the plans went out the window because that was March, April, June.
Because there was no school.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, I threw that away and was just working week to week.
Everybody was.
It was just.
What's funny, though, is my history site grew after all the schools cut down because it was amazing. I don't know why. I did some emails that was like, hey, I'm changing my terms and conditions. You can upload my stuff to Google Classroom. That alone crushed it on retention because people were like, whoa, thank goodness. I've got to actually show my work now. I'll just show yours, Shane.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, in March, I became a teacher online as well. And then I had to completely shift my business. Like, hey, what am I doing now? Like, what do I need in my own classroom? And then, which will in turn lead to what teachers need. So I started making things that I needed, which is what they needed. And my business grew in March, April, May by a lot. Like I can't tell you the exact number, but yeah, probably just, yeah. I mean,
it exploded, right? But you pivoted correctly, right?
Yes.
And this is a culmination of being in business. This is why we tell people stay in business. You got to stay in the game because all the knowledge that you built to that crisis point now allowed you to, it's not throwing mud on the wall anymore. It's throwing the spoonful of mud you think will stick. And where it is in the puddle. So you can go just scoop it out. And now And that's
what
you'll eventually get to, you know?
I knew exactly what to do. It was just a matter of how fast I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like working a full-time job and trying to do this. And at the same time, and being, you know, a one-woman show here. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know what back to school time looks like quite yet. Because I think right now I'm still...
Is the challenge thing to get emails?
It's to get emails and to sell my membership.
Yeah. So you get people in, they go through a challenge, at the end you pitch. So it's a dual strategy. And that worked last year as well, right? Like in the summer. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So let me go back now and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. Okay. So the concept here that we're trying to figure out to get to the next level, right, is to be prolific. That you got to be consistent first. You got to work. Kathy put in the consistency path. You know, sometimes that takes people 3 months of consistency. Sometimes it takes 3 years of consistency before something happens, right? So everybody listening to this, if you're just starting out, if you've just got an idea, if you're just thinking about it, you're not winning in the game because you're not in the game. You got to get the consistency first. That's why we focus so hard in the Flip Your Life Blueprint on being consistent, right? Like one course at a time, one step at a time, take your next step. Kathy's done that. So now we're going to fast forward to what it looks like to get to the next level, to be prolific, right? So I think what I'm hearing is 3 things, okay? And if you would stop doing anything else and focused all your energy on these 3 things, you're probably going to go to the next level pretty fast. All right. So number 1, I'm hearing this challenge strategy that has worked, and you're doing it again this summer, right? I think you've got to expand that. If you know that challenges get you emails and you know that challenges get you sales, you should be doing at least 2 challenges a month. That's prolific, right? 1 challenge in the summer, 1 challenge a quarter, that's consistent. But like if this works, you've got to figure out a way to take this strategy and apply it more often. Now, can you automate some of this? Can you delegate some of this? Can you record all the videos ahead of time? It's batch. They go to a place and the challenge is more automated. Yeah, of course, you can batch this stuff. But if challenges work once a year and they work really good, so good that you're going to do it again or twice a year, how many times you've done this, I would at least have a challenge every month. You know what I'm saying? Maybe 2 times a month is too much right now. But that's the first place I would look, because list building is where you've got to be prolific fast, right? You got to get more people to join your list. If you don't get people to join your list, they don't join your membership, you have no money. So I would expand your challenges. Stop thinking of this as my summer challenge. Like you need to look and say, okay, let's play an exercise here. Here's a game. If I was going to make a challenge every week of the year, there would be 52 challenges. You need to sit down with a cup of tea and coffee or whatever you drink, you know what I'm saying? Something harder if you really need it. And you need to sit there and you need to say, I'm going to go through every week of my avatar's calendar and think, what would a great challenge be this week? And you're going to have now you're going to have a bank of challenges for the rest of your life, right? And you need to ask yourself, okay, can I pull off a challenge every month? Let's start there, right? And then maybe I do it twice a month. That becomes prolific. And they'll eventually be automated. It'll eventually be batched. You'll eventually have people that can help you with all the mechanics, right? But that's the first place that I would go, okay? The second place, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that. I hadn't thought about doing one every month, but...
Yeah, for real. Like, it worked.
There's no reason why.
There's no reason. Yeah, okay. Summer challenge, back to school challenge. Halloween challenge. I don't know. Like figure something out. Like March Pi Day challenge, whatever. I don't know what it is, but like there's a challenge every month. You just have to figure out what that looks like, and you can research keywords and figure out what people like. You know as well as I do. Like I can look up subjects in Google keywords, and I can see when most people are teaching things. Like Civil War is just crushes it in September. You know what I mean? Because everybody's searching Civil War stuff. There's a spike there. Can I make a challenge around this? Or something else. It could even, some of them, you could have one fun challenge, one teaching challenge, right? Like you could even do a challenge like this, like, hey, this is our, math teacher fitness challenge. Like it can be other things. It doesn't have to be, constantly about school stuff, right? And that's probably your second layer. Like your first layer is a challenge for the actual topic that you're talking to with your avatar. Then the second one is more of like a next ring outside the circle, right? Like that's going to give you a way to do that. Okay. So be prolific with challenges. Be prolific with what works. The second thing is this evergreen webinar. What I don't want anyone to miss here is when Kathy said, I've done this webinar so many times live that I know it converts, because everybody wants to build an evergreen passive income webinar funnel out the gate. Until you do your webinar 40 or 50 times and you know you have an offer that converts, you are not allowed to make an evergreen webinar. So there. Now, for everybody else who's done one, then you know you have one that works. This is for you. If you're going to use evergreen webinars and you're going to drive traffic with ads to evergreen webinars, you're going to have to say, I will think about how to drive traffic to this thing every day of my life. Like, honestly, the first thing on your to-do list every day is a question that says, how do I get more people to see into that evergreen webinar funnel, right? It must consume you. Like, the same thing I do is, how do I get people on my email list? That's my question I ask every day of my life, so that when I email them tomorrow, because I email every day, I've got more people to talk to, right? I have to ask myself that question every day. What I'm going to write about is not hard. I know what I'm going to write about. I just come up with something that I'm thinking about. I document. I don't create, right? I just, what am I doing today? I'm going to talk about that on my email. But I do have to think, how am I going to get people into this email list? You're doing the same thing with this webinar. That's where your tactical content and your tactical social posts, what am I posting today, that will get people to go into this evergreen webinar, right? You have to be prolific in the promotion of that funnel once it's created. That's the daily task, right? It might even be as simple as, hey, I email my list. I always PS, check out this training, right? And get them into the evergreen webinar to buy the membership, right? I share something about it every day. Maybe not always on Facebook, maybe sometimes on Twitter, sometimes on Instagram, but somehow, some way, every day, my goal is to tell somebody about this path to get into this, right? Any other opt-in you create from now on, the thank you page should be to this evergreen webinar, right? It becomes the focal point of everything. So if you view your business like a giant umbrella, right? And you're holding it sideways, so over on the left is the big open part. And all those little metal beams go down to the center like part that you hold, right? And then that is one path now. That's how your business now operates, right? The evergreen, the webinar converts. You just got to get more people into the webinar. So take that big umbrella is all your other plans, and they all point into that pipeline, into that funnel that's going to go into that evergreen webinar, okay? Because and I know if 10,000 people watch that webinar, you're going to get a bunch of members. True?
Absolutely
right?
true.
Absolutely. So that becomes two extremely tactical, prolific strategies that you can funnel into. And now it actually is going to make your business easier when you become prolific. People think it's going to get harder because I got to do more. I got to be prolific. No, it becomes easier. Like, think about John Lee Dumas. John Lee Dumas has one job. He used to do a podcast every day. His entire focus was getting guests on his podcast and batching them all in 1 week for an entire quarter. It was simple. And that freed him to go do other things. He didn't have to think about anything else, right? It's the same thing here. You just say, hey, challenges work. I'll do a challenge every month. Evergreen webinar works. Everything I do has to lead to that webinar, right? And if you do that, clean up everything and just point people that way. Now, there's one more thing I wrote down here that you were talking about. You quickly pivoted and you figured out how to grow your business during the pandemic, right? Because you knew what people needed and because you were doing it in real time, right? Even though you're not going to be in the classroom anymore, you've got to think that way. What is my avatar going through right now? I think that is going to become like your public-facing content, is how to teach math in a post-coronavirus world, right? School looks different for you, right? Like you're going to, but you can do this conversationally with teachers, right? Do you write blog posts right now? What's your public content?
Yeah, blog posts.
And I maybe you need to do something a little different. Like, it's not, maybe you need to have conversations with people in the classroom. I don't think it's got to be a podcast or a YouTube channel or anything. You know what I mean? But and talk to people about what they're doing in the class. Like, talk to your existing members, but don't talk about math anymore. Like, talk about what's happening now. Like, especially for the next year, this could be an exceptional tactical pivot into being prolific. Like, I'm the person who talks about this in the math classroom, right? And I talk to my members about it. Like, it could even be interview them, talk about them, write some notes, and like, Jennifer's doing this, Sally's doing this, like, and maybe your social even pivots to this, because I think that what you discovered was you started talking about what you were doing because of this crisis, right? That conversation is not going away right now. So for this year, that might be a great shift in your public content. You know what I'm saying? Don't just be like, how to teach middle schoolers fractions or whatever, like something like that. It's like a new strategy for handling virtual classes, or what happens when tech fails in your virtual class, or how do you discipline Johnny when he won't put his mask on, or whatever they require. You know what I'm saying?
That's been a lot of my content in the last few months, is like how to teach using Zoom, how to, what is like online etiquette for the classroom. It has shifted to that, because nobody cares about like,
and all that other stuff. That's right.
Yeah,
you got to have the conversation your avatar is having, right? So that's the three tactical things that I hear that you should become prolific in. Okay. 1, you should be doing challenges every month at least. I think you can get to 2 a month. I think you can go a week to promote a challenge, a week to do a challenge, a week to promote a challenge. And you could even have, you could actually do 12 different challenges twice a month. Hey guys, the next challenge is opening. You better get in now, because it's going to be a couple weeks before we do it again. Close. You could rotate subjects, where you could do, like, say you had 2 subjects. You do one challenge, then you do a second challenge, just a different thing. And then you do the same, then you do that other challenge again. You just give, hey, we're doing it again this month. So they happen in different months. That's your get it. You might want to start out with 1 a month until you get your feet wet with the systems, and then get to 2 a month, And then all roads lead to the Evergreen webinar, which leads to the membership. If you're going to do Evergreen webinars, that needs to be part of it. Cast your umbrella, and then really get in tune with your audience about what they're talking about. Which is why I think your content's not just going to be you coming up with blog posts. I think it's going to be having conversation. I think you need to ask questions like, hey, who's doing X in their classroom? Or what are your biggest struggles in your classroom, and how are you handling it? And when you read a good example, you're like, hey, you want to jump on a Zoom call and I'm going to write a blog post about our conversation, And then you just create the blog post from the conversation. It'll make your job. But you need to have your heartbeat going to be in the classroom. Okay. But I think that's probably your path to 500, right? Like 300, you're going to get there. Stop making that your goal. You can probably you need to put 500 on the calendar for the end of 2020, and just say, I'm getting to 500. I'm going to go for the moon and the stars and hope I landed by the moon, But I think that's a good path to 500. And you can do that, Kathy. You've got total control over this. You know what's happening, So how does that feel when I know I just said many words, a lot of words,
I mean, it feels doable. I hadn't thought about putting, my webinar on my thank you page. That seems like so stupid. Like, duh.
the thank you. This is the thank you page is your next sales page. Always. Everything. So that's the same thing. If I get you to opt in, what's the next thing I want you to do? I want you to go watch my webinar. Oh, you watch my webinar. What's the next thing I want you to do? Join my membership. Oh, what's next? Go to the member call. So everything just chains together into the next step for that person.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like an easy thing to go do. Yeah. I'll have to think about what kinds of things I want to do challenges around, because the summer one is specifically for back to school. So it's like, it leads directly into my membership.
Yeah. Ask your members, hey, I want to do some challenges to hold each other accountable this year, because we're all going to be learning how to teach again. Tell me the biggest things you're afraid of this year coming up in the new school year. And you'll have at least a starting point on these challenges. And then just go sit down and decide which ones you want to do each month, But ask your audience. Do that right now. Like, what's your biggest fear in the new school year? What's your school district doing? How does that make you afraid? What are you frustrated with your administration and how they're doing things? What are they not thinking about? Like, ask those questions to your audience, and you'll get 20, 30 replies probably in the next month,
Yeah, I think I just have to, I think to get to 500, I just have to believe that I can get to 500.
No, I believe in you. I know you can. I've been telling you for years you can. Right? And you've seen other people get to 500, right?
Yeah.
Our boy Jeff Twitty's got 3,000, but they're out there. You know what I mean? Like he's, these math, I mean, it's a huge niche. And, it's just a matter of being able to talk to your people correctly and executing. People, when they hear me say be prolific, another thing they mess up is do a lot of things. That's not what I'm talking about. Do one thing a lot. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Like your email strategy is your challenges and your webinar. Now just do those two things. Like that's all you're doing, right? Just make people go to those things. So pick one or two things to be prolific. Like when I first started being prolific, Kathy, listen, the other day I screwed this up. So I was like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have 4 podcasts a week, and I'm going to go live on YouTube every day. I'm going to write an email list every day too. I'm going to be so prolific. I'm just going to wake up every day at 5 a.m. and for 3 straight hours, I'm going to do this, and this. How long do you think that lasted? Like, right. You can go back and see this little window of about a month and a half where there was like, I released like 10 YouTube videos and like there was a podcast 4 times a week. And then I just looked over and said, yeah, this isn't possible. We can't do this. So then I was like, I can wake up and email my list over coffee. I can do that. So that's what I picked, right? You're already doing the Evergreen webinar. Your content has already kind of pivoted like this. And you already done 1 challenge. How hard would it be to do 1 a month? So
that's true. It's only 12.
Very doable.
Oh.
Awesome. Well, listen, I'm going to put it on you right here, and I'm going to put this out to the world. Like I expect you to to get to 500 this school year. Okay, no more. You've got 300. It's going to have it. So you have me calling you out in front of thousands of people here, Kathy, that you are going to do this. You're going to go to 500 as fast as possible. Cool.
I'm going to do it.
All right, awesome. Well, listen, we're proud of you. We love you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for being transparent. I know that no matter how successful we get online, we always feel like we're stumbling in the dark. And it's hard to come and talk about the journey on a podcast or somewhere else. So thank you so much today for sharing, Kathy. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for everything. You have no idea.
Love it. Awesome. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that awesome interview with Kathy Martin. We are so proud of her success. She has really put in the time, put in the effort. When a lot of people would have gave up, Kathy kept going, and she literally built her membership brick by brick. I mean, you can go back and listen to her first episode on the podcast where she had just launched and she got 15 members. And then every other day she'd be like, oh, I got 1 more and I got 1 more. And they just started stacking. She leaned on the community. She asked people for help. She followed the courses and she went out there and she built an amazing online business, an amazing membership that is letting her quit her job. And now her goal is to retire her husband so that they both can quit and they can stay home and they can work on that together. And that's what you could do for your family if you would just get started and you would just persevere and you would just invest the time and the energy into going through the program, going through the courses, taking your ideas and being consistent to see what sticks. We are confident that you could build a better future for your family as well. We would love to help you do that inside of the Flip Your Life community. That's where we have an amazing community of like-minded, family-focused entrepreneurs from all over the world rallying together and doing this thing and helping each other go to the next level in their membership. That's where we host the Flip Your Life Blueprint. That's our step-by-step plan to help you start, build, and grow a membership of your own. And we'd love for you to try that for 30 days for free. We give everybody a free trial inside the Flip Your Life community that wants one. We want you to come in and see how awesome the community is. We want you to see how amazing and fun our member calls are, where Jocelyn and I show up and help you answer your online business questions. And we want you to see how the Flip Your Life Blueprint process works. And if you want to join today, all you have to do is go to fliplifestyle.com/free. That's fliplifestyle.com/free. You can start your 30 days inside of the Flip Your Life community. We have trainings available to help you come up with your idea. We have trainings available to help you build your membership. And we have trainings available to help you grow your audience and get more members. That's flippedlifestyle.com/free. Just like we helped Kathy, we would love to help you too. All right, guys, that is all the time we have on the Flipped Lifestyle podcast this week. But before we go, we'd love to share a Bible verse with you. Jocelyn and I like to end all of our podcasts with a Bible verse because we get a lot of motivation and inspiration in our business and life from the Bible. Today's Bible verse comes from Ecclesiastes 9:10, and the Bible says, "Whatever you find and do with your hands, do it with all your might." And I can think of no better verse than that verse when it comes to being prolific. Once you find something that's working, do that thing with all your might. Forget about everything else. Decide and do it with all your might, and you will see great things happen in your life and in your business and in your family. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Flipped Lifestyle podcast. We appreciate you for listening today. Until we see you again, get out there, take action, and do whatever it takes to flip your life. We'll see you then.
Bye.
I would on Friday night, I would go and I would drink a cup of coffee somewhere around like the afternoon when we were sitting around in the coach's office, just to perk up a little bit, before we got on the bus to go to war. And then I would run to the convenience store before the bus left or before we had to go, and I would get a big giant thing of Reese's Pieces and a 20-ounce Mountain Dew, and I would make my climb up to the top of the box and put my headset on and call a game and win or lose, man, live or die, One more thing before we go. Thank you so much for listening to the Flipped Lifestyle podcast. If you love the Flipped Lifestyle podcast, if we bring a little joy and a little happiness and we bring some knowledge into your life every single week, could you do us a favor? Go to Apple Podcast and hit subscribe. Download a few of the podcast episodes onto your phone. Apple's algorithm loves seeing downloads and it loves seeing those subscribes. And please leave us an honest review over on Apple Podcast. That'll help us grow the show, expand the mission, and reach more people so that we can help them change their family's future as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.